Here is the rewritten narrative, crafted in professional, descriptive English prose with a sophisticated tone suitable for a broad audience, maintaining the continuous flow and detailed structure of your original text. The inquiry landed with the overwhelming force of a locomotive, effectively silencing the atmosphere. What is truly remarkable about the situation involving AOC is how the dynamic shifted instantly when Donald Trump stood center stage in CBS Studio 57. It was prime time, 8 p.m. Eastern, and the room was packed beyond its capacity, with 400 individuals squeezed into a space designed for 300, creating a hot, palpable tension, where half the audience donned MAGA hats while the other half sported AOC merchandise, all of them seemingly ready for a spirited confrontation. Cameras were positioned at every angle, broadcasting to 10 million Americans watching from their homes, perhaps even more, with social media streaming the event live, while Margaret Brennan sat positioned between Trump and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, attempting to project an air of control over a situation that had clearly slipped from her grasp. Trump leaned forward, exuding that distinct New York executive energy, aggressive, direct, and possessing the kind of commanding presence that permeates a room regardless of one's personal opinion of him. She arrives here adorned in a designer ensemble that costs more than what most residents of Queens earn in an entire month. Yet, she intends to lecture me regarding the assistance of the working class, he stated, pausing to let the sentiment hang in the air for 5, then 10 seconds, allowing the audience to stir and the murmurs to build. That is indeed rich. Or rather, she is rich, which is precisely the point we need to discuss. AOC shifted in her seat, maintaining a facade of confidence and composure, wearing that expression she often adopted when she believed herself to be the most intelligent person in the room, the look that silently communicated she had dealt with far worse adversaries. Trump's gaze never wavered from her, and he addressed the viewers, declaring that what they were about to hear was something truly unique. 5 rounds, 5 distinct examples of the most significant hypocrisy in Congress, and he assured them that this was a substantial claim. We are going to discuss her extravagant parties, her luxurious lifestyle, the employment opportunities she eliminated, and the people she harmed, all of it. Everything. The studio audience leaned forward collectively, sensing that this was the moment they had been waiting for. The confrontation between Trump and AOC, Queens versus Queens, the billionaire versus the socialist, reality versus fantasy. Margaret attempted to interject, asking Mr. Trump if they could maintain order. But Trump raised a single hand, not rudely but firmly, signaling that now was not the time. We are going to commence with the dress. That infamous $35,000 dress worn, while working-class individuals could not afford their groceries. But first, he turned to address the camera directly. If you have been waiting for someone to finally expose AOC for her contradictions, you should indicate your approval right now and share this broadcast. Because trust me, you will want your acquaintances to witness this, as what I am about to reveal is unlike anything seen before. He sat back, settling in comfortably, and smiled that characteristic Trump smile, the one that typically precedes a devastating revelation for someone who likely warrants it. Let us proceed. Trump did not waste a moment, foregoing a slow build in favor of an immediate offensive, which was his standard mode of operation. Picture this scene. He gestured broadly to paint the picture. And this is factual, folks. You cannot fabricate this. The Met Gala, which you know is an incredibly exclusive party in New York for the wealthy to celebrate their affluence, where tickets cost $35,000 per person, that is more than many people earn in a solitary year. AOC's jaw tightened ever so slightly, but it was enough for Trump to notice and for the cameras to capture. And AOC arrives, wearing a custom-made, beautiful dress. I will grant her that which displays the phrase, "tax the rich," on the back. He elongated each word for emphasis at a party populated entirely by rich people who paid $35,000 to be there, herself included. The irony is so dense you could slice it with a knife. Someone in the audience laughed, a nervous sound that prompted others to join. the noise spreading through the room. Actually, Trump's timing was impeccable. You would require one of those exquisite knives they utilize at the Met Gala. As ordinary cutlery is insufficient for the socialist socialite, the nickname landed effectively and stuck. You could observe AOC's face reddening slightly, her hands shifting from resting on the armrests to gripping them until her knuckles turned white. Trump stood up and began to pace, his energy building as he entered his element with a live audience and rolling cameras, facing an opponent who could not retreat. But let me impart something to you. Let me explain that while AOC was at that gala wearing that gown, sipping champagne with celebrities and millionaires and billionaires, there were individuals watching regular people, working people who had sent her money, believing she would fight on their behalf. He stopped pacing and turned to face the audience, scanning the crowd to ask how many people present had donated to AOC's campaign, urging them to raise their hands without shyness. Slowly, hands began to rise. 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, and more scattered throughout the audience, totaling perhaps 40 hands donors who had believed, who had sent funds, and who were about to discover where those funds went. Trump pointed at them one by one, ensuring the cameras captured every face. These people are your people, AOC, the ones you claim to represent. They sent you small donations, $50, $100, whatever they could spare from their paychecks and savings, money they required for rent, for groceries, for their children, and you accepted it. You cashed those checks, and then you attended the Met Gala. The hands remained raised, 40 people, 40 faces, 40 donors watching her. While AOC could not bring herself to look at them, her eyes cast downward at her notes, as if they contained the secrets of the universe. Let me tell you about one of them. Trump's voice shifted, becoming softer and more personal. Her name is Maria, just Maria, one donor out of thousands. But her story is essentially everyone's story. He walked into the audience, a move stage rules usually prohibited, but no one dared stop him, and stood next to an elderly woman in row 8, who was small, thin, wearing a simple dress with her hands folded in her lap. Maria sent AOC $50. Maria is 68 years old and has worked her entire life as a waitress in Queens, your district, Alexandria. Maria lives on Social Security now, receiving $2,200 a month, and after paying $1,800 in rent, she has $400 remaining for everything else: food, medicine, bills. That is the totality of her finances after 40 years of labor. The studio had fallen completely silent. Even the crew had ceased movement, with cameras locked on Maria, on Trump standing beside her, and on AOC staring at her hands. So, when Maria sent you $50, it was not merely $50. It represented groceries for a week. It was the medicine she required. It was the difference between paying the electric bill on time or incurring late fees. That $50 was everything to Maria. He placed a hand on Maria's shoulder, gentle and respectful. Maria's daughter was celebrating a 6th birthday, and Maria wanted to purchase a present for her granddaughter, a doll she had been requesting that cost $35 at Target. But Maria believed in you, AOC. She believed you would fight for people like her. So Maria sent that $50 for the cause. Maria nodded, her eyes glistening, not quite crying yet, but very close. 2 months later, Maria watched television and saw you walk into the Met Gala, saw that dress, saw you partying with the exact people you claim to oppose. And do you know what Maria did? Trump looked at AOC, who still refused to meet his eyes. She called her daughter and explained why there was no birthday present that year, why Grandma could not afford the doll, because Grandma had sent her money to someone she believed in, someone who promised to fight for working people, but was too busy partying with billionaires to remember the source of that money. The studio erupted. Not with applause, but with rage. Pure rage. Booing began in the back and spread forward, rolling through the audience like thunder, while the 40 donors with their hands still raised were shouting, demanding to know where their money was and calling for its return. AOC's hands went to her throat in an unconscious, protective gesture. Her breathing had changed, becoming shallow and quick. her chest rising and falling in panic. Margaret attempted to restore order, banging her papers on the desk and pleading for civility, but nobody was listening. Trump allowed the anger to build, letting 400 people process the same betrayal simultaneously. When he finally spoke, his voice cut through the chaos like a knife through butter. $35,000 for the ticket, $35,000 for the dress, totaling $70,000 for one night, while Maria's granddaughter received nothing. He walked back to center stage, standing between AOC and the cameras, and remarked on how amazing it was that the $70,000 came from people like Maria, small donors whose tax-deductible contributions were at work. Maria's $50 multiplied by 1,000. 400 donations is how you purchased that dress, using their money, their rent money, their grocery money, and their children's birthday present money. AOC tried to speak, her voice emerging higher than normal, faster and defensive, stating it was a statement and that she was making a point about fashion as protest. Trump's voice dripped with sarcasm as he retorted that Maria cannot afford fashion, Maria can barely afford food. Yet you took her $50 and wore it on your back to a party with people you claim to oppose. She tried again, her voice climbing another octave, claiming she was invited and that it was an opportunity. Oh, you were invited. Trump's eyes widened in mock amazement. How special Maria was not invited. Maria was working at a diner serving people like you, people who can afford $35,000 tickets, while you were wearing her granddaughter's birthday present. AOC's face had transitioned from red to pale, the color draining away as she looked left and right, searching for help, for an exit, for anyone who could make this stop. But nobody came. Maria stood up slowly, using the seat in front of her for balance. Trump offered his hand, and she took it to steady herself. The cameras finding her immediately, every lens in the studio, focusing close up on this 70-year-old woman from Queens who had sent $50 and received nothing but a broken promise. When Maria spoke, her voice was small and quiet, yet every microphone in the studio caught it and carried it to 10 million homes. I trusted you. 4 words. That is all. 4 words spoken in a voice that shook with emotion, with betrayal, with the kind of disappointment that stems from believing in someone only to learn they never believed in you. I trusted you. I watched your speeches. I believed you cared about people like me. I sent you money I didn't have because I thought you'd use it to help. And you went to a party. She could not finish and sat down heavily. Someone next to her, perhaps another elderly friend, put an arm around her shoulders. The studio did not erupt this time. It collapsed into something heavier than anger, into grief, into the realization that someone they had trusted had betrayed them in the most fundamental way possible, taking their money and using it for luxury while they struggled. Trump stood there silent, letting the moment breathe, letting everyone feel the weight of what had just been said, the implications and the truth. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter and harder. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, under these lights, in front of these cameras, in front of Maria, and everyone who donated to you, answer a simple question. Did you or did you not attend the Met Gala while working families in your district struggled to pay rent? AOC's voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper, stammering about tickets and the museum. Yes or no? Silence hung for 5 seconds, then 10, 15, 20, yes. Did your dress cost more than most people in Queens make in a month? I didn't pay for? Yes or no? Yes. Did you use campaign donations, money from people like Maria, to fund your political operation while spending $70,000 on one night? Her lawyer would have advised her to stop answering, but she was not thinking about lawyers anymore. She was thinking about Maria, about the 40 donors with their hands still raised, about 10 million people watching her admit the truth. Yes, Trump turned to the cameras, to America, to everyone watching. That is one scandal, folks. One example of the socialist socialite, taking your money to party with the rich, while you cannot afford groceries. But wait, there is more. Oh, there is so much more. He opened a folder on his podium, a thick folder containing new evidence and new horrors. Let us talk about what she drives, what she lives in, and how she spends while she lectures you about capitalism being evil, while she tells working people that they are oppressed, and while she preaches about income inequality from her luxury apartment. AOC's hands were shaking now, visibly shaking, trembling in a way the cameras caught, zoomed in on, and broadcast to millions. Trump smiled that dangerous smile, the one that signifies he is just getting started. That represents round one. The dress, Maria's $50, and your donations funding her lifestyle. If you are one of those donors, if that was your money she spent, share this, and let everyone see what their contributions bought, because it was not fighting for workers, it was fighting for her image. Keep watching, trust me. It gets so much worse. The audience roared their approval, half of them standing now, applauding and chanting Trump's name. The other half, AOC's supporters, sat silent and uncertain, starting to doubt. Margaret tried to call for a commercial break, but nobody was listening. Trump just kept going, pacing again, building energy and momentum like a shark that had tasted blood and desired more. Let me tell you something. His voice filled the studio, not yelling but big and overwhelming. Let me tell you about the people in AOC's district, the people she claims to represent working families, real working families, not the activists or the socialists from Brooklyn who love her on Twitter, but the actual people who live in Queens, who elected her and believed her. He stopped pacing and turned to face AOC directly. These people see you every day. And do you know what they see? They see what you drive. They see where you live. They see how you spend. And then they hear what you preach. Socialism, income inequality, eat the rich, abolish billionaires, tax wealth out of existence. His voice dripped with sarcasm on every word. And meanwhile, you are living like one, well, not quite a billionaire, but definitely a millionaire lifestyle, on a government salary, while telling working people that capitalism is evil, that their struggles are because of greed, and that the system is rigged against them. AOC tried to interrupt, claiming she fights for the people who clean buildings. Trump's voice cut through hers like a machete. The people who maintain your property, the people who serve you at restaurants. They drive old cars. Alexandria, 15-year-old Hondas, 20-year-old Toyotas, whatever still runs with no air conditioning and rust on the doors, but it gets them to work 3 or 4 jobs, whatever it takes to feed their families. He walked toward her, slow and deliberate. She did not answer, could not answer. A Tesla, a $50,000 Tesla, an electric car, very progressive, very environmentally friendly, and very hypocritical. The audience stirred, murmuring and processing, with some of AOC's supporters looking uncomfortable now, starting to see the pattern. You know what is amazing? In the real world, the one where actual working people live, $50,000 represents 2 years of salary. People work 2 full years to earn what you spent on a car you bought while you lecture them about greed. Trump turned back to the audience, scanning the crowd. How many people here drive a car worth more than $10,000? Raise your hands. Come on. A few hands went up. Maybe 10 out of 400 people? See that? He pointed at the sparse hands. Those are the people you represent. The 98% who drive cars worth less than 10 grand. And you are in the 2% driving a Tesla, telling them capitalism is the problem. He spun back to AOC, quick and aggressive, right in her face now. Let me ask you something. How much did your Tesla cost? I needed reliable transportation for how much? Her voice came out small and defeated. Around 50,000. 50,000. Trump repeated it slowly. And the people in your district, the ones who voted for you, what do they drive? She tried deflection, using that academic voice she employed when she thought she was smarter than everyone else, mentioning false equivalents and varying transportation needs. No. Trump's voice was flat and final. This is called reality. You preach socialism? You tell working people they should vote to redistribute wealth, to take from the rich, to create economic equality? Yet you drive a car worth more than they make in 2 years, while telling them that cars are killing the planet unless it is your Tesla. The studio audience erupted again. Not just Trump supporters this time, but some of AOC's people too, slowly realizing and starting to see the contradiction that was too obvious to ignore. AOC's breathing had gotten faster and shallower, audible over her microphone, that panic breathing, which occurs when you know you are cornered with no escape. "I deserve success too." The words came out defensive, high-pitched, and desperate. "I worked hard. I am allowed to." "Of course you deserve success," Trump pounced, his voice rising. "But under capitalism, the system you want to destroy, that is the hypocrisy." He turned to the audience with arms spread wide. "She wants socialism for you and capitalism for her. She wants to take your wealth and redistribute it. But her wealth is different. She earned that under the system she claims is evil, the system she wants to eliminate for everyone except herself." The booing started again, louder this time, rolling through the studio like a wave. Even some of AOC's supporters were not defending her anymore, just sitting there silent, processing the contradiction. Trump was not done. "You live in a luxury apartment, $2,600 a month, for a 2-bedroom in Navy Yard. A nice neighborhood. Very nice. Do you know what working families in Queens pay? The same amount for a studio in a dangerous neighborhood with broken elevators and leaking pipes. But they pay the same rent you do for a tenth of the space, in conditions 100 times worse." He walked back to center stage, standing under the lights. "You shop at Whole Foods and post about it on Instagram. Expensive organic food, very healthy, very progressive. While people in your district shop at discount stores, dollar stores, whatever is cheapest, because that is what they can afford, while you lecture them about corporate greed." AOC's hands were gripping the armrests so hard her knuckles had gone white, the bone showing through the skin, and the cameras caught it close up. Her face was pale, sweating slightly under the studio lights. "You wear designer clothes and post photos on social media. Expensive outfits, very stylish fashion choices, while working people in Queens wear whatever does not have holes, whatever still fits, whatever they can afford from clearance racks, all while you preach about income inequality." Trump's voice dropped, becoming quieter and more dangerous. "The difference between you and them is that they are honest. They know they are struggling. They know the system is hard. But they work anyway. They try anyway. They do not blame everyone else for their problems. And they sure as hell do not pretend to be something they are not." He pointed at her, direct and accusatory. "You got elected by pretending to be one of them. The bartender from the Bronx, the working-class hero, the voice of the people, and the second you obtained power, you became exactly what you claim to oppose: rich, entitled, out of touch, living in luxury while preaching about sacrifice for everyone else." AOC tried to respond, her mouth opening and closing, but no words came out, just that shallow breathing, that panic, that realization that everything she had built, her entire brand, was being destroyed in real time on national television. "In the real world," Trump continued, his voice building again, "you do not get to preach about income inequality while driving a $50,000 car. You do not get to attack the rich while becoming one. You do not get to lecture about privilege while living in privilege." He walked toward her one more time, stopping right in front of her chair. "Unless you are AOC, unless you are the socialist socialite, unless you are a fraud who never actually believed any of it, and just used it to get elected, to get famous, to get rich, while the people who believed in you received nothing." The studio was on its feet now, 300 people standing, applauding, and roaring. The sound was physical and overwhelming. AOC sat there, shrinking, getting smaller. The confident activist was gone, replaced by a politician caught in lies she could not explain away. Trump looked at the cameras, at America, that is, 2 rounds, the Met Gala while working people starve, the Tesla while preaching socialism. Your donations are funding her luxury lifestyle while she attacks the lifestyle she is living. If you drive a 20-year-old car, if you clip coupons, if you work multiple jobs while she lectures you about oppression, share this, and let everyone see the real AOC, the one who lives like the elite while attacking the elite. Unless she is the elite, then it is different. He opened another folder, thicker than the previous two combined. Now, let us talk about the jobs she killed, the families she destroyed, the opportunities she eliminated. 25,000 of them, all gone because AOC needed Twitter likes. AOC's face had gone beyond pale, almost gray. She looked to her staff, to anyone, begging with her eyes for someone to make this stop. But nobody could. Trump just kept going. Trump's energy shifted, less sarcasm now and more anger. Real anger. The kind that comes from seeing something genuinely destructive and wanting everyone else to see it too. Let me tell you about the dumbest thing I have ever seen in politics. His voice filled every corner of the studio. And believe me, I have seen a lot of dumb things. But this takes the cake. This is special. He picked up a paper from his podium and held it up. Amazon wanted to come to New York, to Queens, to AOC's district, to build a headquarters and create jobs, real jobs, good jobs, 25,000 jobs. He let that number sit there, breathe, and grow. 25,000. Think about that. Not $25,000, not 25,000 of anything else, but 25,000 jobs. 25,000 families getting paychecks, 25,000 people getting health care, 25,000 opportunities for better lives. Trump set the paper down and started pacing again. And AOC, the socialist socialite, Sandy from the Bronx, the bartender billionaire, she said no. She killed it. She celebrated, threw a party on Twitter saying, "We stopped Amazon," like she had won something, like she had accomplished something, like destroying 25,000 jobs was a victory. The audience stirred. Even some AOC supporters looked uncomfortable, for this was documented, public, and undeniable. You know who lost? Trump's voice rose. The 25,000 people who needed those jobs, the families who applied, the single parents working retail who could have obtained careers, the young people stuck in dead-end jobs who could have received opportunities, the middle-aged workers downsized from other companies who could have gotten second chances. He stopped pacing and turned to face AOC directly. All of them gone because you wanted to look tough, because socialists in Brooklyn were watching, because you needed to score political points with progressives who have never struggled a day in their lives. AOC tried to mount a defense, her voice shaking, claiming Amazon refused to pay fair. $85,000? Trump's voice exploded. Not yelling, just massive and overwhelming. $85,000 is what those jobs paid? People in your district make $30,000? You just denied them a $55,000 raise? For what? She stammered, trying again, saying, "We can't let corporations." Who is we? Trump cut her off, his voice like a knife. You decided, not we. You decided. The people who needed those jobs were not asked. They were not consulted. You decided they did not need opportunities. You decided Twitter likes were more important than their families' futures. He turned to the audience, scanning the crowd. How many people here applied for Amazon jobs? Or knew someone who did? Raise your hands. Slowly, hands started going up. 1, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. More scattered throughout the audience. Maybe 60 total people who had applied, who had hoped, who had believed Amazon would give them a chance. The cameras panned across them, found their faces, and captured their expressions of anger, betrayal, and loss. Trump pointed at them, making sure AOC saw, making sure America saw. See that? Those are the people you hurt. Not Amazon, not Jeff Bezos, but them real people from your district who voted for you, who believed you would help them, and you killed their opportunities for tweets. One man stood up, middle-aged, Hispanic, wearing a button-down shirt, his voice shaking with emotion. I applied for operations manager, $80,000. I was going to move my family out of our apartment to a better neighborhood, better schools for my kids. Others stood one by one all over the audience. I applied for tech support, could have started a career. I applied for warehouse supervisor, would have gotten my daughter off food stamps, I applied for customer service. First real job opportunity in 5 years. Their voices overlapped, built on each other, a chorus of lost opportunities, of destroyed hopes, of families still struggling because AOC had decided their jobs were not important. Trump let it build, let them speak. Let AOC hear every single one. When the voices finally died down, he spoke quietly, but every word carried weight. 25,000 families. Not a statistic, not a number, but people. Parents who could have afforded better schools, single mothers who could have stopped working 3 jobs, young people who could have started careers, immigrants, legal immigrants who could have built better lives. He walked toward the section of audience members still standing and stood among them. And you killed it. For what? For applause from people who do not need jobs? For praise from activists who have never worried about rent? For Twitter followers who think opposing corporations makes you brave? His voice built, getting louder, filling the studio. You know what is amazing about AOC? She has never created a job. Not one. Never. Never ran a business. Never made payroll. Never worried about keeping employees working. Never struggled to meet regulations. Never built anything. But she knows better than Amazon, than Jeff Bezos, than everyone who has actually created jobs. He turned back to face her. She was crying now, openly crying, tears streaming down her face, mascara running, the confident activist completely gone. She knows you do not need those jobs. She knows your families do not need opportunities. She knows your kids do not need better schools, because she does not need any of that. She has hers under capitalism, the system she wants to destroy, for everyone except herself. The chanting started low at first. Just a few voices asking where the jobs were. Then more voices joined. Then everyone, the whole section, 60 people, all standing, all chanting, "Where are the jobs?" AOC put her hands over her ears, trying to block it out, trying to make it stop. But it did not stop. It got louder, the sound rolling through the studio like thunder. Trump just stood there. Let it happen. Let her hear it. Let America hear it. The sound of people whose futures she had destroyed, asking where their opportunities went. When the chanting finally died down, taking almost a full minute, Trump walked back to center stage. There will be other opportunities. That is what she said after killing the Amazon deal. Well, guess what? There weren't. Those 60 people are still looking, still struggling, still working jobs that pay a third of what Amazon would have paid, still living in apartments they wanted to escape, still sending kids to schools they wanted to leave. He looked directly into the nearest camera, at America, at everyone watching, because AOC decided not them, her, and they are the ones who paid the price, while she drives her Tesla and lives in her luxury apartment and preaches about fighting for workers by taking away their work. AOC was trying to say something, her mouth moving but no sound coming out. Just that breathing, that panic, that realization of complete exposure. Trump opened another folder, even thicker. 3 rounds down, 2 to go. And folks, if you needed one of those Amazon jobs, if you know someone who did, if you are still struggling because some bartender from Queens decided Twitter likes were more important than your family's future, share this and let everyone see what fighting for workers really means to her. Spoiler alert, it means taking away their work. He pulled out papers, photos, evidence. Now, let us talk about her grandmother, about Puerto Rico, about fake stories and real suffering, about using your own family for fundraising, about $100,000 that went somewhere nobody knows where. But we are going to ask, and she is going to answer. AOC's face had gone beyond pale, beyond gray, almost green and sickly looking. Her hands were trembling so badly, they were visible on camera from across the studio. Margaret tried to call another break, saying we should perhaps... No breaks. Trump's voice was final. She did not give those families a break. She does not get one either. Let us talk about Abuela. Trump's voice changed again. The anger was still there, but different now. Colder. The kind of cold that comes from seeing something morally bankrupt and wanting everyone else to see it too. Now this one, he shook his head. This one crosses a line even for Congress, even for politicians, even for AOC. Using your own grandmother for political fundraising, exploiting your family for money that is low. Really low. He picked up a photo and held it up so the cameras could see. This is a picture AOC posted on social media. Her grandmother's house in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. Looks bad, right? Looks destroyed. Looks like someone who needs help. He set it down and picked up another photo. This is a picture journalists took. Same house, same time, different angle. The house is fine. The roof is good. The walls are solid. Everything is intact. The grandmother is not in crisis. She is not suffering. The house is not destroyed. He set both photos down side by side. The contrast impossible to miss. So, what happened? Simple. AOC needed a story. Needed to look like she cared about Puerto Rico. Needed to raise money. So she exaggerated. She lied. She used her own grandmother as a prop. Posted sad pictures. Said the house was destroyed. Said Abuela was suffering, and people sent money over $100,000 to help. The studio had gone completely silent. Even the anti-AOC people looked uncomfortable now, for this was different. This was family. This was fraud. Trump's voice got quieter and more dangerous. Except the grandmother did not need help. The house was fine. So, where did that $100,000 go? He let the question hang there for 5 seconds. Then 10, 15. Nobody answered because nobody knew. Anyone? Anyone know? Because I would love to hear this explanation. AOC tried to speak, her voice barely audible, mentioning various Puerto Rican causes. Which causes? Trump's voice exploded. Show us the receipts. Where is the accounting? Where is the transparency? You raised money for your grandmother who did not need it. Where did it go? She could not answer. Sat there silent, tears streaming faster now. Trump was not done. You know who did need help? Real Puerto Rican families. Real ones. People who actually lost everything in Hurricane Maria, who are still homeless 4 years later, still living in unsafe conditions, still struggling, still waiting for help that never came. He gestured broadly, encompassing everyone. Real families watched your campaign, watched you post about your grandmother, watched people send money, and they thought, finally, someone who understands, someone who will help, someone from Congress who cares about Puerto Rico. His voice dripped with disgust. Then they found out it was fake. Your grandmother was fine, the house was fine, the money went somewhere nobody knows where, but it sure did not go to the families who actually needed it. Trump walked to the side of the stage where audience members sat, who had been quiet until now. He gestured to a section. How many people here are from Puerto Rico or have family affected by Hurricane Maria? Hands up. Maybe 20 hands went up, scattered through the audience, Puerto Rican community members, people with connections to the island, people who knew what real hurricane damage looked like. Did any of you get help from AOC's fundraising? Anyone? Heads shaking, universal negative. Not one person got help. Of course not. Because the money was not for you. It was for her. Her image, her brand, her political career. She used her grandmother, used Hurricane Maria, used your community's suffering to raise money for. We still don't know what. One woman stood, speaking with a Puerto Rican accent, angry. My family lost everything, house gone, business gone. We got nothing, while she raised money off a fake story. Others stood, voices rising. Our neighborhood is still destroyed 4 years later. Still no real help. She used us, used our pain. Their anger was different from earlier rounds, more personal, more hurt. This was not about politics or economics. This was about community, about family, about using other people's tragedy for personal gain. AOC had her face in her hands now, shoulders shaking, sobbing, the kind that come from being exposed as something you never wanted to admit you were. Trump let the Puerto Rican voices build, let them express their anger, let AOC hear what using people's suffering for fundraising actually costs. When the voices finally quieted, He spoke again quietly, but every word cut. You raised over $100,000 for a grandmother who did not need it, while real families, families in this audience, families still in Puerto Rico, families still struggling, got nothing. And when journalists caught you, when they proved the story was fake, you did not apologize, you did not return the money, you did not explain where it went. He walked back to center stage, you just moved on, posted something else, found another outrage to tweet about, forgot about your grandmother, forgot about Puerto Rico, forgot about the people whose donations you took under false pretenses. AOC tried to speak, her voice completely broken now, barely audible, saying she tried to explain the situation. Trump cut her off. Not aggressive, just final. You committed fraud. Let us call it what it is. You raised money for one thing, spent it on another, or did not spend it at all. Nobody knows. That is fraud in the real world. In the business world, people go to jail for that. But you are in Congress, so you just get re-elected, or you used to before tonight. He picked up another folder. The final one. 4 rounds. The Met Gala, the Tesla, the Amazon jobs, the grandmother fraud. One more to go. And this one is about your big plan. Your Green New Deal. The $93 trillion fantasy that would destroy millions of jobs, including businesses that have existed for generations, family businesses, American businesses, all gone, because a bartender from Queens who has never run a business decided she knows how to run the economy. AOC was completely broken now, head down, cannot look at anyone, cannot speak, cannot defend, just sitting there, destroyed, exposed, finished. The audience was on its feet, not all of them, not the AOC supporters, but most standing, waiting for the final blow, the knockout punch. Trump smiled that dangerous smile. Let us finish this. Trump's energy came back full force, almost gleeful now, like he was about to deliver the punchline to the longest joke in American political history. Okay, he clapped his hands together. Let us talk about the Green New Deal, AOC's masterpiece, her big solution to climate change, her plan to save America, save the planet, save everything. He paused for effect. 93 trillion. The way he said it, stretching it out, making every syllable count with a T. Trillion. That is not million, not billion, but trillion. 93 of them. That is more money than exists in the world. More money than has ever existed in the history of money. But AOC has a plan for it. He walked toward AOC. She would not look up, just sat there, broken. She wants to eliminate oil, all of it gone. Gas, coal, every fossil fuel banned. She wants to retrofit every building in America, every single one. Make them green, make them sustainable, whatever that means. And she wants to do it in 10 years. Trump stopped walking and laughed, a genuine laugh at the absurdity. 10 years? I have built buildings. I know construction. You know how long it takes just to get permits, to file the paperwork, to deal with regulations? Years. Actual years. But AOC is going to rebuild every building in America in 10 years? Sure. The audience laughed with him, even some AOC supporters. The plan was too ridiculous not to laugh at. And it gets better. Oh, it gets so much better. You know what else she wanted to ban in the original plan? He paused for dramatic effect. Cows. Cows. I am not making this up, because cows produce methane, which is bad for the environment. So, the solution is to eliminate cows. Get rid of them. I do not know what we are supposed to eat or what happens to dairy, but the cows have to go. More laughter. Louder. Now. Even Margaret was trying not to smile. This is who you elected, Queens. A bartender who wants to eliminate cows with a $93 trillion plan that would require inventing money that does not exist to solve a problem by creating worse problems. That is your Congresswoman. Trump's voice shifted. Less humor now. More serious. But here is what is not funny. Here is what is actually tragic. You know who pays the price for fantasy plans? Real people. Real businesses. Real families who have built something over generations. He turned to the audience. How many people here own businesses or work for small businesses? Massive response. Maybe 100 hands went up, a quarter of the audience. Under AOC's Green New Deal, how many of those businesses would survive? Every hand went down. Every single one. Exactly zero. None. Because her plan makes your equipment illegal, your processes illegal, your entire way of doing business illegal overnight. All the investment you made is worthless. All the training useless. All the expertise you built over years, decades, generations gone. A man stood up, older, 60-something, his voice thick with emotion. My family has an HVAC company. My grandfather started it 60 years ago. 3 generations. All our equipment would be illegal. We would have to spend $800,000 to retrofit. We do not have $800,000. We would have to close 20 employees, all unemployed. Trump pointed at him, made sure the cameras got him. That is the real cost of AOC's fantasy, not $93 trillion in made-up money, but real people losing real businesses, 3 generations of work gone, because someone who has never run a business decided she knows how to regulate them out of existence. More people stood all over the audience. Manufacturing company, 4th generation, can't meet the requirements. Construction firm, equipment too old, would have to close. Trucking business, vehicles would be banned. 40 families unemployed. Their voices built on each other, a chorus of small businesses that would be destroyed. Family operations ended, generations of work eliminated, all for a plan that could not work, that would not work, that was never meant to work. Trump let them speak. Let AOC hear every single one. Let America see the real cost of socialist fantasy. When the voices died down, he turned back to AOC. You have never created a job, have you? She did not answer, could not answer, never ran a business, never made payroll, never worried about regulations, never struggled to keep employees working, never built anything, but you know exactly how to destroy everything these people built. He walked to his podium, picked up papers, and held them up. You know what this is? This is your frequently asked questions document, the one you posted with the Green New Deal, the one you deleted when people started asking questions, when economists started laughing, when business owners started panicking. Trump read from it slowly, making sure everyone heard. Quote, "We aren't sure how to pay for it." Your words, not sure how to pay for $93 trillion. Imagine that. He flipped a page. Quote, "Implementation details are unclear." Your words, unclear how to actually do any of it. Just that it sounds good. Another page. Quote, "Timeline may not be feasible." May not be feasible. That is your way of saying impossible. 10 years to rebuild America is impossible. But you proposed it anyway. He set the papers down. You posted this, your frequently asked questions, your admissions. Then you deleted it because even you knew it was stupid. Even you knew it could not work. Even you knew it was a fantasy. But you proposed it anyway because it sounds good to people who do not understand economics or math or reality. Trump's voice rose, building to the climax. And you know what the worst part is? The absolute worst part is that you do not care that it cannot work. You do not care that it would destroy millions of jobs. You do not care that it would bankrupt America. You do not care because you never intended it to pass. You just wanted applause. He pointed at her, accusatory. Applause from environmentalists, from socialists, from progressives who have never worked a real job, from people who think destroying businesses makes you brave, from Twitter followers who do not understand that jobs matter more than likes. The audience erupted, standing ovation. Everyone, even some of AOC's former supporters. The evidence was too overwhelming, the hypocrisy too obvious, the fantasy too exposed. AOC sat there, head down, completely still, not crying anymore, beyond crying, just empty, broken, destroyed. Everything she had built, her entire political brand demolished in less than 2 hours on live television. Trump stood center stage under the lights, victorious. That is all 5, folks. 5 scandals, 5 lies, 5 categories of victims. The Met Gala, while small donors starve. The Tesla, while preaching socialism, killing Amazon jobs. Fundraising fraud. Green New Deal fantasy that would destroy millions of businesses. He looked directly into the camera at America, at 10 million people watching. That is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That is the socialist socialite. That is who Queens elected a fraud, a hypocrite. Someone who preaches one thing and lives another. Someone who takes from working people to fund her luxury lifestyle. Someone who destroys jobs while claiming to fight for workers. Someone who uses her own family for fundraising. Someone who proposes plans she knows cannot work just to get applause. He paused, letting it sink in. Share this everywhere. Subscribe, comment, tell everyone you know, because this is what socialism really looks like. Not equality, not fairness, not helping people. This is what it really is. Elites living in luxury while preaching sacrifice to everyone else. That is AOC. That is the squad. That is the whole movement. The audience roared, chanting, "Trump! Trump!" AOC still sat there, motionless, defeated, finished. Margaret tried to wrap up, saying we should thank our. But nobody was listening. The damage was done. The exposure complete. The confrontation over. Trump had won. America had watched. And nobody would forget. The video went viral before the show even ended, attaining 30 million views in the first hour, 60 million by morning, and 100 million by the end of the week. AOC Exposed was trending #1 worldwide. Socialist socialite, becoming her permanent nickname, Queens versus Queens, capturing the entire confrontation. Every clip, every moment, every devastating exchange. Conservative media went into celebration mode. Fox News ran the footage on a loop. Tucker Carlson devoted his entire show to the analysis. Sean Hannity called it the greatest political takedown in American history, and Laura Ingraham played the Met Gala section 3 times. The audience numbers were massive, record-breaking. Liberal media tried to defend her but couldn't. The footage was too damaging, the victims too real, the evidence too clear. CNN ran segments titled Problematic Moments, but even their talking heads struggled. MSNBC tried to focus on Trump's tone instead of AOC's actions, but it didn't work. By the next day, even they had moved on, leaving her to sink alone. AOC's office stopped answering phones by midnight due to too many calls, too much anger. The voicemail was full within an hour. The system crashed by morning, overwhelmed by the volume of constituents demanding an explanation, demanding resignation, demanding accountability. The squad was silent. Not one tweet of support. Not one statement of defense. Not one appearance together. Omar posted something vague about unity without naming AOC. Clyburn retweeted environmental news. Presley went dark completely. The solidarity was fake, and always had been. And now everyone knew. Nancy Pelosi's office released one sentence. The Congresswoman speaks for herself. Translation: she is on her own. Good luck. You are going to need it. By morning, AOC had deleted the Twitter app from her phone. Unable to handle the notifications, the mockery, the shame. Thousands of tweets per minute. All brutal, all accurate, all permanent. Instagram went next. Too many comments. Too many people pointing out her luxury lifestyle in every photo, every designer outfit, every expensive meal, every contradiction exposed. Her approval rating in Queens dropped overnight from 64% to 33%, a 31-point collapse in hours. The fastest political implosion in New York history. Polls showed her losing the primary by 28 points to anyone. Literally anyone who challenged her would win. The primary challenger, announced at midnight, didn't wait, struck while the iron was hot. Not another activist, not another progressive, but an actual worker, a union member, an electrician born in Queens, raised in Queens, still living in Queens in a normal apartment, driving a normal car, living a normal life. His slogan, a real worker versus the fake socialist. His first ad featured clips from the debate: AOC's Tesla versus his Ford pickup, her luxury apartment versus his rental, her designer clothes versus his work uniform, her Met Gala versus his Union Hall. The contrast was devastating. Fundraising exploded. $3 million in the first month. All small donors. People giving $20, $50, whatever they could afford. The money that used to go to AOC was now going to her opponent, Poetic Justice. Early polling showed him leading by 18 points within 2 weeks, 22 points by the end of the month, 26 points, the lead growing, as more people saw the debate, as more people learned the truth, as more people realized they had been lied to. Maria, the one donor Trump had spotlighted, became a national figure. Conservative groups raised money for her, $50,000 in a week, more than she would make in 2 years. She bought a house, actually bought it, a small house in Queens, nothing fancy but hers. Paid in full, the American dream realized by people. AOC claimed to represent, but never did. Maria became a spokesperson for donors deceived, the movement appearing on every conservative show: Fox News, Newsmax, conservative podcasts. Her message was consistent. I believed in her. She believed in my money. Never again. Her story became a symbol of progressive hypocrisy, an elderly woman sacrificing for a politician who used it for luxury. The contradiction was too perfect, too obvious, too viral. Working people in AOC's district organized real workers, not activists, not socialists, but people who cleaned buildings and drove trucks and worked construction, the people she claimed to represent, but never did. They formed a coalition backing the primary challenger. Voter registration was up 40% in Queens, all against her. The 25,000 families affected by Amazon formed their own group, Jobs AOC, killed a title blunt, accurate, and devastating. They documented every person who applied, every family that needed work, every opportunity destroyed, the evidence overwhelming. Other companies announced Queens expansions, smaller than Amazon, but something. 5,000 jobs created by businesses wanting to prove they cared about Queens workers more than AOC did. The contrast was stark, her obstruction versus others' progress. Puerto Rican community leaders called for her resignation with a formal statement, public and brutal. She exploited our suffering for personal gain. She raised money off a fake story while real families got nothing. She does not represent us. She never did. Community organizing against her involved bilingual campaigns in Spanish and English, churches, community centers, and local businesses all turning against her. Her name became toxic. AOC. Toxic in neighborhoods that elected her. The betrayal was too personal, the fraud too obvious. Small business owners across Queens organized Business Owners Against AOC, a coalition formed that endorsed the primary challenger en masse, documented every regulation she proposed that would hurt them, and created jobs to spite her, proving what actual job creation looked like, what actually helping workers meant. The Chamber of Commerce issued formal opposition, not just to her policies but to her, the first time they had ever opposed a specific candidate. But the Green New Deal threat was too real, the danger too obvious. They could not stay neutral anymore. Progressive organizations started distancing themselves. The Democratic Socialists of America released a statement. We support democratic socialism, not hypocrisy. Translation. She is making us look bad. We are out. Major donors cut ties publicly with statements explaining why. Her fundraising collapsed from millions to thousands. Nobody wanted the association. Nobody wanted the taint. Her staff quit in a mass exodus. The campaign manager resigned via Twitter, wouldn't even call her. The chief of staff was gone by morning, the press secretary by afternoon, the policy director by evening. Within 72 hours, 3 people were left running her entire operation. Everyone else fled. Resume going out looking for any other work. Anything but association with AOC. Her office in Queens closed temporarily for renovations, the sign said. Translation. She is hiding, cannot face constituents, cannot answer questions, cannot defend herself. Her office in D.C., she showed up to vote, ran from cameras. No statements, no interviews, no explanations, just votes and escape. Other members avoided her in hallways, didn't want to be seen together, didn't want the association. Committee assignments were under review. Democrats wanted her gone, off committees, out of leadership, away from cameras, as invisible as possible until the primary ended her career naturally. Speaking invitations were canceled. All of them. Universities didn't want protests, organizations didn't want controversy, events didn't want boycotts. She was toxic, untouchable, radioactive. Her book deal was canceled. Publishers cited changing market conditions. Translation: nobody wants to read this anymore. The brand is dead. The story is over. The Netflix documentary about her was canceled. Creative differences, they said. Translation: this would lose money now. The narrative changed. The hero became the villain, and you can't sell that. Trump's victory tour. Every show, every platform, every interview was talking about the debate, about AOC, about socialism, about reality versus fantasy. His approval ratings climbed to 71% nationally, 89% among Republicans. Presidential speculation intensified. Exploratory committee announced. That is what happens when socialism meets reality, he said on Hannity. When fantasy meets facts. When Twitter likes meet real life. Queens taught the bartender a lesson. A Louisiana lesson. A Trump lesson. Don't lie to people about who you are. Because eventually, someone is going to call you out on national television in front of 10 million people. And then, it is over. The phrase caught on, "Don't let Trump pull an AOC on you," became a warning among Democrats. Every progressive was terrified of similar exposure. Every socialist checking their own lifestyle for contradictions, every activist making sure their story held up under scrutiny. AOC hadn't appeared publicly since the debate. 3 weeks. No appearances, no statements, no nothing, just silence. The confident activist completely gone, just a broken politician, waiting for the inevitable end. Primary polling showed her losing by 32 points, internal numbers worse. The campaign knew it, the staff knew it, she knew it, loss inevitable, career over, just a matter of time. She looked for an exit strategy. Post-Congress career options limited. Nobody wanted her. Universities said no. Companies said no. Organizations said no. Even progressive groups passed. The brand was too damaged. The reputation too destroyed. Rumored Netflix deal fell through. Book publishers wouldn't return calls. Speaking agents stopped answering. She was alone. Completely alone. Everything she had built gone. Destroyed in 2 hours on live television by simple questions and obvious evidence. The socialist socialite nickname stuck permanently. Used by everyone, even other progressives, even former allies. It captured everything. The hypocrisy, the fraud, the contradiction, living like the elite while preaching equality, getting rich off capitalism while attacking capitalism, a luxury lifestyle funded by working-class donors who struggled. Her Wikipedia page updated within hours. No longer rising star. No longer progressive champion. No longer squad member. Just former U.S. representative. Lost primary following televised debate. Known for controversial policies and lifestyle contradictions, that was her legacy. Former, controversial, contradictions. Nothing else would be remembered. The Green New Deal forgotten. The squad disbanded. The movement fractured. All that remained was the fraud exposed. The fake revealed. The socialist socialite unmasked. Political obituaries were written while she still held office. The rise and fall of AOC became a common headline. Articles analyzing what went wrong, where she failed, how she lost touch. But they all missed the point. She didn't lose touch. She never had it. The bartender from the Bronx was always fake. The working-class hero was always a fraud. The voice of the people was always the voice of herself. It just took Trump, Queens meeting Queens, to expose it. Maria lived to see vindication. Got her house, got her justice, got her voice back, spent her remaining years as a conservative folk hero, always telling the same story, always ending the same way. I gave $50 to fight for working people. It ended up buying her a Met Gala ticket instead. Best $50 I ever spent, though, because it exposed her. The people who needed Amazon jobs, some found work, others are still looking. But they organized, they mobilized, they made sure the next representative understood that jobs matter, opportunity matters, Twitter likes don't feed families, and politicians who forget that don't get second chances. The Puerto Rican community rebuilt without her. Other representatives helped. Real aid came through. Real families got real assistance. The community remembered who actually helped versus who just fundraised off fake stories, remembered who showed up versus who showed off. Small businesses survived despite her, in spite of her, because that is what small businesses do. They survive, they adapt, they endure. And when the Green New Deal died, which it did immediately, completely, they breathed easier, built more, hired more, proved what actual job creation looked like. Trump used the victory as a launching point. His presidential campaign in full swing, the debate footage in every ad, the confrontation at every rally, the exposure at every speech. That's what I'll do to socialism became his message. Facts, evidence, reality. That is how you beat fantasy. It worked. Polling showed him leading every Democrat, including primary challengers, including incumbents. The debate proved he could dismantle progressive arguments, could expose hypocrisy, could connect with working people, could deliver a simple message. Reality beats fantasy, always. But the real victory wasn't Trump's. It was reality's. Facts beat feelings, evidence beat narrative, truth beat lies. Working people beat fake advocates. Queens, real queens, working people. The lesson spread beyond politics, beyond AOC, beyond one debate. It became cultural, moral, simple. You can't preach one thing and live another. You can't attack wealth while accumulating it. You can't claim to represent workers while destroying their opportunities. You can't use people's suffering for personal gain. You can't propose fantasies as solutions. You can't expect people to stay fooled forever. Eventually, someone asks simple questions. Eventually, evidence emerges. Eventually, truth matters. Eventually, reality wins. That is what happened to AOC. Simple questions, obvious evidence, clear truth. Reality defeating fantasy on national television in front of 10 million people. Permanently, completely, finally. The socialist socialite learned what happens when Queens meets Queens, when working people meet someone pretending to be working people, when donors meet someone spending their donations on luxury, when reality meets fraud. Truth wins, reality wins, working people win. America wins. And the bartender who thought she could fake her way to power learned the hard way that you cannot. Not forever. Not when someone is willing to ask simple questions. Not when the evidence is clear. Not when 10 million people are watching. She got exposed, destroyed, finished, and everyone saw it happen live, in real time, with no excuses, no escape, no second chances. That is justice, real justice. The kind that happens when truth matters more than narrative, when facts matter more than feelings, when reality matters more than fantasy. AOC learned it the hard way. Queens taught her, Trump delivered the lesson, America watched, and nobody forgot. The socialist socialite got schooled, and school was permanent. Folks, if watching Trump destroy AOC with simple facts gave you even half the satisfaction it gave Maria, and those Amazon families, and those Puerto Rican communities, and those small business owners, smash that like button right now. Share this everywhere. Tweet it, post it. Send it to every socialist you know who thinks feelings matter more than facts. Let them see what happens when reality meets fantasy, when business meets bartending, when Queens meets Queens, when someone who has actually built something confronts someone who has only destroyed things. Comment below. Should AOC resign? Should she be investigated? What should happen next? Because America is watching. Working people are watching. And we are not forgetting. And subscribe. Because trust me, there are plenty more where she came from. Bernie, Ilhan, the whole squad. They are all hiding the same contradictions, living the same lies, preaching the same fantasies while living different realities. This is just round one of the Trump exposure tour. We are just getting started. And after what you just watched, you know exactly how it ends. With truth, with reality, with facts, with working people getting justice, with frauds getting exposed, with socialists getting schooled. That is what we deliver every time. No exceptions, no excuses. See you in the next one. And trust me, it is going to be even better. Justice doesn't sleep. Reality doesn't stop.